before we switch gears into the NBA season, we do want to go ahead and get into our buyers and sellers with the trade deadline coming up next week.
Yep.
We have already got one. We see they're always a buyer, it seems, as I mentioned earlier, with Howie Roseman and the Philadelphia Eagles getting Kevin Byard. We can probably expect that they might not make any more trades here, but that remains to be seen. So I don't want to mention the Philadelphia Eagles, really in this one because because they're always a buyer, but they seem to have made their move. But in terms of buyers versus sellers, who are you guys tabbing as buyers right now?
Okay, I talked kind of talked about it in our review of last week, but I definitely think Detroit should definitely be big buyers at this deadline. I think they have a shot now. They are in first in their division. I think they have a shot to keep and hold that, and with that, that's the quickest, easiest, not easiest, but best way to get to the playoffs and have a home game. I think they go and get some reinforcement at this deadline. So,
not to cut you off, but what are you thinking in terms of position?
Position, I think definitely wide receiver. I'm thinking wide receiver, cornerback, and probably some other pass rush, whether it's interior or edge. But one of those three positions for sure. I don't think they need to look anywhere else but those three positions. Look for it. And I think we talked about receivers kind of already. We know earlier we talked about a few weeks ago. We talked about Vontae Adams. We talked about Vontae Adams, but they also came out and said the Raiders
not trading them.
They're not trading them. So next up, you got D-Hop, but you also got some lesser guys. You just need some reliable, something reliable.
Darnell Mooney.
Yeah. So.
Well, actually, Darnell Mooney's not going to the division. I'm sorry. I don't even know why I threw that out.
No, I like what you said earlier. I like the Buffalo Bills to be a buyer. Someone like Jerry Jeudy. We talked about he's kind of on the lines of like an Emmanuel Sanders type, and that's what you was explaining earlier how at that point in time their offense was actually clicking. So I think another receiver like I told you earlier. I mean, he's solid, but I never really liked Gabe Davis. That's just me. But
you said it.
I think someone like a Jerry Jeudy would solidify and give Josh Allen some other option, because for whatever reason it just doesn't seem like he's using his tight ends like I think he should be. And I'm not sure what that issue could be, but I think someone like Jerry Jeudy would help them out a lot.
I like that. I got one more before you go, Shot. Yeah, Kansas City Chiefs. I think they should be buyers at this. I think they should go and get wide receiver help, which I know you're probably, it might be on your list too, maybe. I don't know. But I think they definitely need wide receiver help. They currently have the best odds, honestly, to get right now to get D-Hop, which I don't think that would happen. But they do need some more wide receiver help. They can't go for it with just this crop here.
Especially, we the allegations against Justin Ross that came out recently. He's a lesser known receiver on the team, but one of the receivers that they thought had some potential to kind of blossom into that position. I really don't see. I think the Kansas City similar to Philadelphia. We just saw their trade. We just saw their move with getting Mecole Hardman. Rice has been steadily improving, as the season's gone on. So I think they'll still kind of, they invested a second round pick in Sky Moore as well. I think they'll kind of continue on with what they're doing, especially because they continue to win, even with having those questions.
Okay.
But actually my buyer, I have two buyers. I've got one buyer that, has a chance to make some noise, this season. And then I have a buyer that, I think they should be buyers at this point in this juncture, looking into future seasons. And my first buyer is my Super Bowl pick, the Baltimore Ravens.
Okay.
Baltimore Ravens have been super successful so far. Obviously, they're coming off a huge win. They could still use a little bit of running back help, with the Tennessee Titans being a team that is kind of having that fire sale right now. Derrick Henry, Lamar Jackson would definitely be a sight to see.
That will be something.
And then also another, position that they could look at. Their defense has been super solid, and something that we haven't talked about, their defense is top 5 in the league right now. And Marlon Humphrey didn't play most of the season. Obviously, we saw, his first game back, he kind of got cooked by Pickens for that game winner. But they continue to be good defensively. Rocky Sin and Marlon Humphrey have put together, some good games back to back, and the back end, as well as, the rest of their squad. They could probably use another pass rusher, and maybe looking into a Montez Sweat or a Chase Young would be the maybe where they look. And with that being said, I do want to stick with that same pass rusher because Chase Young, or really, I'm more so focused on Chase Young. I think the Indianapolis Colts really should look. I think at this point, the Colts are in a position, obviously, with Andrew Luck. God, Lee, that's some demons right there. But with Anthony Richardson, getting hurt, in my personal opinion, and you guys might have a different opinion, and it might be just pure bias, but I think that Anthony Richardson was probably going to be our offensive rookie of the year. Just the way things were going, I believe the Colts were going to eventually, just how the records were, how things were going, I think the Colts were going to be in real contention for the playoffs. Mm-hmm. And we've seen, I think the Colts have seen as an organization, and we as fans, like in the NFL as a whole, we've seen that Anthony Richardson is going to be a player in this league. Like he's the Colts probably have a guy. So I think that they could definitely use Chase Young. Chase Young would be somebody that they could take a flyer on. Kwity Paye has been good as a first round pick, but he's not a pure pass rusher. Same thing with Samson Abukum. He's been really good, but he's not a young pass rusher, and he's kind of on a short term contract. So I really think that taking that flyer out on Chase Young with having a quarterback on a rookie contract, that gives you that freedom to make that possible trade up to go get the prodigal son Marvin Harrison and bring him to Indy, instead of having to focus on going to get a pass rusher. So the Indy and I know we're only focusing on a couple here, but I also think that, and this is going to be a little bit harder for them, but but the Houston Texans, they also have found out that, hey, we've got a guy.
Yeah.
They don't have very many, they traded their first round pick for, Will Anderson to draft him as well. But, they've got a guy. So go ahead. They've got an opportunity. Jacksonville they're not just dominating the division. They're not just running away with it. Obviously, they've already lost to Houston this season. So, that's also something that I think they should look at as well. But with that being said, what do you guys think about sellers? We've obviously seen that Tennessee is a seller. So we don't even need to bring them up. They're obviously probably going to offload on probably Derrick Henry, probably D-Hop. Ryan Tannehill, he's hurt right now. So, but he might also get shipped off as well. Who are some other teams that you guys can see, to start looking elsewhere?
I say Arizona. It's been a lot of talk that Kyler Murray might not be what they want to go with in the future. So I think that's there's bad teams out here that can use a quarterback. So I think that they could be a seller, and just go ahead and start trying to go for because even like you just said, Buda Baker, but even like I was saying, Kyler Murray. Joshua Dobbs been holding up. He's a stockhold for whatever the next phase of whatever they're trying to go in their franchise. So I think that they could be a potential seller. And also, I just thought about it after you just said it, but the Commanders can definitely be a seller. We done talked about it numerous times of where their defense is not where we thought it should be. With the Chase Young, Montez Sweat. Jonathan Allen just went off on his presser the other day. Like it's crazy out there. So they could be a possible potential seller.
And I want to make sure that we go back and revisit this after me and Cass go. But I want you guys to think a little bit about, what do you think would get more of a return, Kyler Murray or that first overall pick if they, quote unquote get that. But Cass, what were you saying?
I won't go with the obvious ones like we kind of talked about with Tennessee and Denver, the Broncos, because
Broncos for sure.
Broncos for sure. But I'm gonna go Giants, and I think the last couple of weeks have kind of probably shifted their mindset a little bit. The defense has been playing better, the last couple of weeks. But I still think that they are. I think they should be sellers. Try to recruit some assets there. They have a receiver. They have Paris Campbell, which I think they're not really using as much as they want. They wanted to. I think they can, ship him off, and I think he still can contribute in a certain manner within the offense. Like somebody that can know how to use him well. I think Adoree Jackson, maybe Xavier McKinney. I think they should just looking to compile some assets to kind of retool, not just tank or anything like that. Because I don't know what they're going to do with Saquon, but if they do end up keeping them, they say they're not going to trade Saquon. So you don't want to be rebuilding. So just not like a not selling your farm, but like retooling, get some assets, use it in the draft, or use that capital to get somebody else. But I think they should look into that. And my second one, I'm gonna go with I was kind of going back and forth, but I think the Panthers should look at selling a little bit too. I'm not saying Brian Burns, but I think that's another team that should be looking at some of those
Dante Jackson, maybe
Dante Jackson. Looking at some of those guys, they ain't got too much, but I think they also need to retool it because whatever is going on with that team, it ain't it. And I think they just need to that's a team that can just scrap it, start over. You got Bryce, build around that. Maybe even getting rid of trading Miles Sanders. Maybe I can see him going to a team like the Ravens. If he gets healthy, I don't know if he's healthy right now or not, but I see Miles Sanders can help the Ravens more than he can help the Panthers, somebody like that. But yeah, I think they should really look into a retool in that. So those are two.
Okay,
I would say.
So those are some solid picks. I've actually got two teams within the same division that could possibly be looking at being a seller. The first one being the New Orleans Saints.
Oh,
the New Orleans Saints. We've talked countlessly about, or not we personally, but it's been talked about countlessly, like how they keep pushing back the cap and they keep pushing back that bill.
Ugly, boy.
And they can start, they're probably understanding at this point, like, hey, whatever that we've got working right now is not working.
Yeah.
So, maybe not going to get off of a guy like Cam Jordan because he seems to be a New Orleans lifer. But you could, if you'd want to look at a Marshawn Lattimore, or you want to look at definitely the Honey Badger. I don't know how he'd feel about that, obviously being from Louisiana, and he might want to end his career there, but Mike Thomas, that could also be with the slow emergence of Rashid Shaheed. Go ahead and getting off that Mike Thomas contract, and then ultimately you can also look at Alvin Kamara if you really want to, because I mean that they're bad. They're under the cap bad.
Yeah, it's pretty. The Saints have to do something. They have to do something
because they have to either become a playoff team and a serious contender very fast, or they cannot. They've been trying to do this, like they still got Drew Brees on the squad, and it's not. He's not there.
That's crazy.
And then the other team would be, and I guess we've got three teams from the NFC South because you mentioned the Panthers, but Tampa Bay.
Yeah.
Obviously, they had the Tom Brady era, and Mike Evans is up for a contract, and Chris Godwin is a year removed from his knee injury, and they're kind of in a position where they've got to. I mean, you can kind of qualify him as a journeyman quarterback right now. He's still playing excellent, and he can definitely still prove to be maybe a franchise guy for them because he's still on a small contract. But, because they play Buffalo on Thursday night, they also have that extended, mini bye week to kind of go through those trades, and then, especially if they do trade somebody like Mike Evans to a Buffalo, Chris, to a Buffalo or somebody
That'd be
else,
nice.
to kind of make room for Trey Palmer, or, trading Shaq Barrett to make room for, the young guys that they had with Logan Hall. They drafted him recently, as well as Joe Tryon. They drafted him, and then Kalijah Cansey as well on that D line. And then obviously, Devin White requested a trade during the summer, and then he kind of came back and said, "Oh, I'm tripping." But that was during when they were undefeated. So, let's see how he feels now.
Yeah, true.
That they've kind of had a little skid, and they're probably not gonna stick with Todd Bowles, as their guy moving forward either. And so that'll be something to see for them. I think that they should definitely consider it, especially as we predicted Buffalo will win. If they do lose this game, it's let's go ahead and start looking to the future. We tried to make it work, and let's go ahead and move on.
That game being on Thursday is probably a blessing for them. Honestly, it gives them more time to react from that appropriately, not and then go for it. Yeah, I can see that. I can see Tampa Bay for sure.
Yeah, and I was trying to look to see. There's no other teams that are having bye weeks this week, which is kind of weird. You have all these teams that have bye weeks, and then you just have a random no bye week during week 8, which is weird.
I guess it's NFL. Hey y'all, like, hey, trade deadline coming up. You better see what you got. Everybody play. We'll see. So it'll be good at bye week next week for sure, though. Damn.
To get back to my question about Kyler versus, if they do get the number 1 overall draft pick or a top 2 to 3 draft pick, because they do have 2 chances to get it with Houston or with Carolina. Yeah. Wait, no, that's
Chicago.
That's Chicago. That's Chicago. Yeah. I'm tripping. But with that being said, if Kyler Murray practiced today? He was a full participant, so we may see him either this week or next week. Well, actually, they probably will try to go see him this week if they are going to even contemplate having a trade. What do you guys think that, given the precedent of some of these past trades with quarterbacks, would you rather have Kyler Murray, or would you rather just go ahead and restart your books and roll with an unknown?
Again, I think that depends on, of course, it just depends on the team that we're talking here, right? So who are we talking is in the market for a quarterback like Kyler Murray?
I don't even think, yeah.
So we're looking at
the team that you mentioned, the New York Giants. Okay. Kyler Murray would be, I think he's got the personality to fit in New York. He's also, it would be tough because it's NFC and doing that trade. But he also kind of fits that mobile type quarterback with a big arm that, Dayball worked well with, obviously with Josh Allen. Tried to work well with a little bit with, Daniel Jones. So that could be something. Obviously, they can take a flyer on Daniel Jones and, try, trade for his contract and try to see that. And then if it doesn't work, he can be, that bridge guy.
I don't know how
for the Giant. Oh, go ahead.
I don't know. Okay, sorry. I don't know, and this is might be maybe a little bit left field, but I don't know how the relationship between D-Hop and Kyler is as of today. But for Tennessee, I could see that happening. I could see them getting off of.
I personally can't.
I can see it.
It's too much.
If they don't believe in Malik and Will, I can see them selling those away and going with a more established quarterback in Kyler Murray.
I get that, but at this point, like, you've got to that would just, to me, that would be like their version of being New Orleans, where you're just pushing the bill back. Like, clearly this team is not.
That's true.
Clearly this team is not good enough. You were the number 1 seed at one point with your last iteration of your team. I don't see them selling off Kevin Byard at 30 and then trying to go get another veteran quarterback after spending a 2nd round pick on another quarterback this past year and a 3rd round pick on a quarterback. So I just
okay, that's fair.
Yeah. But I mean, that would make sense just because it's AFC, NFC.
But other than that, I don't see any other destinations for Kyler. I guess that's kind of why.
With the Giants, my thing about the Giants is if they had if they had actual pieces around, then I would say yes. But you gotta realize you traded for Kyler Murray with his contract, and then you still need to add some pieces to them in the
But
sense of
who's to say that they don't have pieces in because Tyrod Taylor has been playing those pieces have been looking decent with Tyrod Taylor. Like Jalen Hyatt has been playing better with Tyrod Taylor.
He has.
Wan'Dale Robinson was good last year. Obviously, he's coming off an ACL injury. He's been good, pretty decent, so far this year. They
Especially
have
last couple
Darren
games.
Waller.
Yeah,
They have Darren Waller, and then
so you saying Danny Dimes sorry.
I'm not saying he's sorry because I do like I like Daniel Jones, but I mean at the end of the day, like your production is what your production is. At the end of the day, you've had 4 or 5 years and you had one good year, which that one good year you only threw like 10 touchdowns. So I mean at the end of the day, you gotta call it what it is. Call a spade a spade.
No, I was just saying about the weapons because you're at that point with a rookie quarterback on a rookie contract, you can build around. You can manipulate the stuff and you can start trying to bring weapons into a situation where it's like, okay, we're going to be because like you said, your argument in general being with like a Mac Jones type or even Daniel Jones, like, okay, where are his weapons at? Y'all putting them out here with nothing, but with a rookie quarterback on a rookie contract, you can start bringing in actual weapons and say, hey, okay, we providing you with the resource, let's get it. Versus,
I got 2 comparisons for y'all.
Okay,
right. And I got 2 more teams after that.
Yeah. So picture yourself, and this is directly for Shai's question. If I'm the Washington Commanders, give me your pick. If I'm the Las Vegas, if I'm the Raiders, give me Kyler Murray.
See,
the Raiders?
and the Commanders were actually one of the teams. Actually, you might have just the Commanders were one of the teams that I was going to mention as a destination for Kyler Murray, where you're ushering in. I spoke about it on the first episode in my preview when I said Washington. They were in no matter what. Whatever you think about Sam Howell, whatever you think about Eric Bieniemy, that team was they were never going to succeed. They were never going to succeed just because of the new ownership. And things were going to be changing, and that's why. And we're probably having the same thought in terms of like that's why you might want
the new pick to start over fresh with new ownership and new. Yeah,
but that's also why I say I'd want Kyler Murray because you have an established quote unquote star. He was a former number 1 overall pick, so he kind of understands that and would bring some cachet with a team that you've already built, and then might not necessarily have to you're going to get rid of either Sweat or Young, but you already have that defense in place. You have the receivers in place, and now you're just bringing a quarterback in.
Well, that's fair. That's fair.
That's the other reason I would bring him in because, like you just said, with the Kyler Murray is like he's way more mobile than Sam Howell. You're gonna bring in another quarterback that you're drafting behind that offensive line.
Yeah, that's
gonna get killed.
No, that's tough. Yeah.
And it's like, okay, Kyler Murray's been through this. He know what he's looking at. He's been through this. He's been through that, and he's very he's very off script and he can scramble and he can get out of situations with the set of receivers he do got. So that's why I said
I think we're in agreement though. Like if you're the Commanders, you need to be talking to the Cardinals right now. Either way it goes.
Something.
Either way.
And then the other team is, this is going to be, I think, probably going to be a surprise for y'all, but the Green Bay Packers. At this point, Jordan Love is only on really a 1-year contract.
Mm-hmm.
They gave him the little bit of a quote unquote, they gave him a little bit of a plug saying that, hey, we'll give you a little bit more money this year, but you have to show us that you're our guy before we extend you. And, they've got an excellent team around him. That is an excellent team, an excellent young team. They've had some injuries in the receivers, but Dobbs, Wicks, Christian Watson, Reed, they're all good. Musgrave is a good young tight end. Obviously, Aaron Jones, and then I'm sure they're going to add another running back at some point next year. And then the defense is obviously nasty. Got a lot of good young talent on the defense, so that's another place I would look at. But To get back to the original question, I know we kind of switched it to what would you rather have, but what do you think that a trade for Kyler Murray would get you versus a trade for the number 1 pick? If they were to, like, let's just say that they have the number 1 pick, they keep Kyler Murray, they end up getting the number 1 pick.
Yeah.
Now you have to make a decision between trading this pick or trading Kyler Murray. Do you think that you're going to get, we can already probably set the baseline for first round picks for both at 2. They're probably going to get 2 first round picks regardless. Russell Wilson just got like 3 first round picks, so Kyler Murray's at least getting 2.
I think a lot of it goes with Gannon, and kind of how you want to build around him. Him being a defensive guy, I think you kind of look at more pass rush. Look just to bolster that defense. I know you need a receiver though to go along with picks, of course. But if you're looking at trading the number 1 pick, for instance, or a top 3 pick in this upcoming draft, I think you definitely look at trying to get one of those big name pass rushers in there to kind of just help with that defense. So that's kind of where I'm leaning compared to a receiver or I mean they still got Connor back there running back, but I don't know how much they go, but I think they go defense. I think you just look to bolster that. But interested to see what y'all think.
About you, Chris?
We're talking about the Commanders.
No, the Cardinals.
I mean, they're trading with the Commanders.
If they traded with the Commanders. Okay, go ahead.
Because I assume you was talking about like the pass rusher or whatever.
Well, I mean, I was just talking in general from around the league, but yeah, the Commanders.
I would say actually getting a running back. Like you said, he's a defensive guy.
That's typically what they do.
That's what they do. That they're like
positional value.
Right.
It's kind of low.
They're gonna play action, running the ball, just making it a physical, nasty, slow game for them. And so I think if it, along with 2 first round pick, I think getting a solid running back to go along with their offense, and then knowing that they will eventually, draft a quarterback, I think that's what the route they would take.
Okay.
I would also probably say if we're looking at the Cardinals, if they do trade the pick, I would agree. They probably go and get. It's a good receiver class with Keon Coleman, Malik Neighbors, obviously Marvin Harrison Jr. A lot of early talk about Marvin Harrison Jr. probably going top 1, 2, or 3. Personally, I don't see that. We haven't seen a receiver. I think the earliest we've seen a receiver go and in recent history was Jamar at number 4 or number 5, whichever pick he got. I just don't see Marvin Harrison, especially with some of these bottom feeder teams, what they need.
Yeah, that's true.
But
Carolina. They traded.
They traded. If it wasn't the Bengals, he wouldn't have went up there.
And
that's true too.
Well, that's tough to say because when I was thinking about it, I was thinking that exact same thing. But Jalen Waddle I think he went the next pick at number 5 or number 6. So those receivers are going to go early regardless. And I think Devontae Smith went a couple picks later. So and Marvin Harrison, I mean, based on what everybody's saying, he's in he might even be in a tier higher than Jamar. Definitely. So. We'll see, but I agree. I don't know. I just don't see. I just don't know. And like I mentioned earlier, I threw that in there. Maybe the team that does draft him with a top 3 pick is the team that his father played for because Irsay will go get that man. Irsay will go get that man. So, but we're looking too far ahead. We keep keep talking about the off season, and we need to stick into the now with football season, even though it is going pretty fast. But next week, the trade deadline in the NFL is not like the NBA. They're trying. They've been trying to do a little bit more with trading some stars here and there, and trying to make some noise. So we probably will get a pretty quiet trade deadline, but it's always fun to speculate.
Always fun.